Hey guys, in this episode I'm going to show you guys how to quickly begin using jQuery to um, manipulate, of course, your web pages and so forth. So hope this is going to be a quick one. Right on the screen right now, I'm using VS Code and I have created already an index.html file, and it's an absolutely blank file, as you can see, and on the browser it's totally blank. So we're going to do this really quickly. I'm going to create a very much bare bones HTML file, and then we're going to integrate jQuery into it and see how it works. And hopefully this is going to be, as I said, quick, so you don't have to spend too much time on it. All right, so first thing is we of course create HTML tags, and we create the head tag as well. And we'll name this, we have to name this page. So we just name this demo. And that's pretty much it for our head tags. Now an HTML document also has to have a body tag as well, and we'll just probably put hello world just to make sure that something appears on the page. There we go, we have a hello world page, and with, hello world is within the body section. Okay, so what is the quickest way of doing this is probably to load jQuery from CDN of some sort. So let's do that very quickly. I like to use Cloudflare, so I'm going to search for jQuery Cloudflare CDN. And when you do that, we get the first link is cdnjs.com. Click on that. And here we have a list of files that is available on the CDN. Now, the one that we want to use is, of course, this one that is slightly orange or pink. It depends on, of course, your screen colors. And we're particularly using the min.js. You can use the .js without the min, but min stands for minified, which means that the file is usually going to be smaller. Okay, so it's going to be quicker to download as well. But because we're linking to it, you won't have to download anything, right? I'm talking about like opening it in the browser. The browser has to pull this file to the user and so forth. So anyways, go ahead and use, just go ahead and click on copy script tag. So when you click on that, we go back to our VS Code, and right under the head, just paste that in. And you don't have to worry too much about what everything is. I'm not going to explain that. As I said, this is a very, very quick crash course into getting something to work. Now, we basically, this is not going to do anything per se on the UI side. In other words, you're not going to see any difference here. So for example, I save this file, the HTML file, and I'm going to go back to the demo page, and nothing really happens, right? Or at least not on the front side of things. But we'll get to what you need to do in order to utilize the jQuery library that we now imported in. Okay, so first thing is first, to make this easier, we need to probably create a div. All right, so we're going to make a div container, and let's class this container. Let's name it something. So we'll name this placeholder, and we're going to stick with hello world for a second. We're going to change this. Make sure that you get rid of this tag there, or it's going to break the HTML code. And when we reload this, nothing again is going to change, but something did change in the background. We'll get to that as I get into the inspector, but just stay tuned. Don't leave us yet. Okay, so now we have a placeholder, and we have a class that we could reference this placeholder, this div element to. As we saw, we already pulled in the library, and now we're going to create another script here. And this time we're going to put in some text into here. So the first thing we need to do is understand how jQuery works when it gets executed. All right, so the first thing jQuery requires you to usually do is to access jQuery, use the $, and then you put here document, and then there's a ready function, and I'll explain the ready function just now. A ready function which requires a function as well, which doesn't have any arguments, open brackets here. All right. Now here, to get something going, we'll use the console. Okay, so I'll explain all this as we go along, but the console is going to say page has been loaded. Okay, so let me explain what's happening here. So it's basically whenever the document loads or it's ready, we want to run this function. And this is all, of course, this is JavaScript, right? So what it is saying is the entire page should load before whatever is inside of this function here, whatever is in this function here, will be executed. And you want this to happen. The reason why you want this to happen is because you want to make sure that all the containers load, whatever the containers are, they load first, or else jQuery will not be able to find that container if it needs to manipulate the container. I'll explain that even further as we go along, so just stay tuned. Okay, so let's execute what's happening here, and I'll explain again what's happening if we look at the inspector. So we're going back to the page. We're going to reload this. Nothing happens, but I'm going to open up the inspector, which is Control-Shift-I of Chrome, and I'm going to go to this section called Console. I hope that you could see that. And as I click on console, you'll notice that it says page has been loaded. The fact that this says page has been loaded means that whatever data was stored in the HTML file, that has to load completely first before the function inside here is going to output page has been loaded. So this console.log is not jQuery, but it's part of JavaScript. And basically it allows you to output something to this console here when you're doing debugging. And that's what's happening here. And we need, as I said, we need this to occur. We need to put whatever our code is within this ready function, so to speak, so that it actually is able to find the placeholder. In other words, the placeholder has to load first before you could manipulate the placeholder itself. All right, and that's what this function is actually doing. So if I were to, I'll give you the example as we go along, but let's say we want to manipulate this. Let's say we want to change hello world into something else, right? All we have to do is within this function, we do the same format here, $, whatever it is. So this is usually a tag of some sort that we need to use. And in this case, the tag will be the class. All right. Well, when I say tag, it's actually the CSS name, basically. All right. So you'll see what I mean here. So a class usually has a dot in front of it. So let's go. $, open brackets. Make sure to put quotations. And you'd think that you could just type in placeholder here to reference it, but that won't work. You need to actually put whatever the class name, because this is a class, you have to put a period, a dot in front of it. And that's telling it to, that's basically referencing this div element here. Okay, so that's what it does. This part is referencing this element here. And now we could change what is inside here by calling the function .html and let's say welcome. Now if I save that, as I said, this whole page is going to load in the browser. This function is going to wait until this whole page loads. It has to load the entire thing before it gets executed. And then it's going to execute page has been loaded onto the console, and then it's going to change the text of this div here. Let's go. It's going to happen really, really fast. There we go. See, it's really super fast. So it makes you feel as though it's not happening in steps, but it's actually happening in steps. And there's a reason why, and let me show you something. So let's say that we wanted to, we didn't use the ready function. Let's say we didn't use the ready function. Let's say we put this outside of this ready function. And let's say we hide that, okay? Let's say we said welcome first before we loaded the page. There's a chance it may not happen. There we go. Notice it said hello world, which is the original text in this container. Notice that even though we called the placeholder properly, right, which pointed to this placeholder div element here, and we tried to change it, it did not change. And as I said, the reason is that you need to wait, you need to use this ready function, which loads the entire page first, and then manipulate whatever is in these containers. All right. So I hope that at least explains how to how to begin using jQuery super fast. But I needed to explain the ready function first in order to do that. So let's. This is not the only way that you could actually reference this placeholder. For example, let's say instead of a class, you had an ID. So I'm going to remove this this part that doesn't work, okay? And we're going to bring back in the code that actually works. Let's say that this was not a class, but it was an ID instead, like that. This code would not work because it's pointing to a class. It's looking for a class that does not exist anymore. So if we reload here, it's going to just say hello world again. It's not going to work. If we go back into placeholder, we know based on CSS that in order to reference an ID, right, an element by its ID, we need to put the number sign. Okay, so if I save that and then I go back here and reload, it's going to work. So basically, it overwrote what was in hello world using these functions here, this command basically. I'm going to call things command functions. You know, it's pretty much the same thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you can get this really quickly to work with it. Is there anything else I need to show you? I think that is just the beginning, okay? This is just a quick video, as I said, of how to go about using jQuery, and I think we solved that problem of how to go about using jQuery. It does look a little bit confusing, but the more you use it, you'll realize how wonderful jQuery is. And I don't want to, I don't want to say anything, negative about React. Whatever works for you guys, it works for you guys. But to me, jQuery is so much faster, so much easier to use. Not faster in terms of speed, but it's just so much easier to implement something in jQuery, especially if you know what you're doing as well. In fact, you could sort of imitate a lot of the things that React does, but we'll go along, hopefully, depending on if the video is in demand, then I'm going to continue on. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment in as well. Let me know if there's if this is something you're interested in learning, and I will continue to create videos on jQuery because I think it's super awesome. I use it even up to now, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. With that being said, thanks so much, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.